Today let's talk about the Runechild Sorcerer subclass in the Tal'Dorei Reborn Critical Rulebook, today on Flutes Loot. So the Runechild Sorcerer's origin is interesting because it involves runes becoming part of your physiology, and it's interesting that it says the Runechild Sorcerers are pretty rare and people seek them out to experiment on them like tortured spell batteries. The first ability the Runechild gets at level 1 is Essence Runes. Your body begins to express your innate magic as runes traced out across your skin. You start with 1 Essence Rune, and you gain an additional rune whenever you gain a level in this class. So if you were a level 5 Runechild, you would have 5 Essence Runes. These runes can manifest anywhere on your body, though the first usually manifests on the forehead. Your Essence Runes remain invisible when they are inert, so they're not always obvious until you activate them. How do you activate them? At the end of a turn during which you spent 1 or more sorcery points, a number of your Essence Runes equal to the number of sorcery points you spent begin to glow with stored energy. Interesting that they don't start glowing until the end of your turn. So they become Charged Runes and then they become useful. You use these Charged Runes to power your Runechild subclass features. Also, as a bonus action, you may spend a sorcery point to convert 2 Essence Runes into 2 Charged Runes. So if you're not using your sorcery points on your spells at the moment, but you want to start charging your runes, you could use a bonus action to do that. If you have 5 or more Charged Runes, you emit bright light in a 5-foot radius and dim light for an additional 5 feet. So you really start to Super Saiyan glow when you have 5 charged runes at once. If you expend a charged rune to use one of your Runechild features, it returns to being an inert Essence Rune, so it stops glowing and you don't see it anymore. Any charged runes also revert to inert Essence Runes after you finish a long rest, so you can't stack them up after you rest or anything. This would also make it so you can't just use your sorcery points during your long rest before you recharge all of them for rest tricking, but most people don't do that anyway. Also at level 1, you get Runic Magic, which is your expanded spell list for sorcerers. This is so important for modern 5e design that sorcerers get a list of spells that they get for free and that they can be swapped out for certain other class spell lists and schools of magic. When you gain a level in this class, you can replace one spell you gained from this feature with another spell of the same level. The new spell must be an abjuration or transmutation spell from the sorcerer, warlock, or wizard spell list. Being able to trade out those spells is huge for sorcerers, but let's see what the basic runic spells are for you. First level, you get Long Strider and Protection from Evil and Good. Third level, Lesser Restoration and Protection from Poison. Fifth level, Glyph of Warding and Magic Circle. Seventh level, Death Ward and Freedom of Movement. Ninth level, Greater Restoration and Telekinesis. So I like the runic spells in that they are very thematic and I can picture why they were chosen for the Runechild Sorcerer, but most of them are not top-notch spells and you might want to swap them out. For example, you might take Long Strider and swap that out for a Warlock spell of Abjuration, which is Armor of Agathis. Scaling that with Sorcerer spell slots as opposed to Warlock can be very good. Glyph of Warding can be really cool. Death Ward is great. Freedom of Movement is great. I even like Telekinesis a lot, but some of these, you might not need them depending on your DM style and what kind of creatures you're facing. Regardless, being able to get these kinds of spells as a sorcerer to expand how many spells you know and having more flexibility with your spell casting makes sorcerers much stronger than they were when 5th edition first released. But we're not done. At first level, you get one more ability called Glyph of Aegis. You can release the stored arcane power within your runes to absorb or deflect threatening attacks. Whenever you take damage, you can expend any number of charged runes as a reaction. Roll a number of d6s equal to the number of runes you expended and reduce the damage by the total. At 6th level, you can touch a creature as an action and expend 3 charged runes to transfer your protective power to it for up to 1 hour. The next time that creature takes damage within the next hour, it rolls 1d6 per charged rune spent and reduces the damage by the total. You can't transfer this power to a creature that's already under the effect of Glyph of Aegis. And then at 14th level, the Glyph of Aegis dice scale to d8s instead of d6s. So I'm noticing something so far where this feels a lot like the Clockwork Soul's damage reducing ability, but it has to spend sorcery points directly. With the Runechild, you can use your sorcery points on spells, or you can just spend the sorcery points as normal. So there's more flexibility in it to create this damage reducing shield on you and others. So I think I like the Runechild's version of damage reduction better because it just feels more flexible and it's using up a different resource other than sorcery points. Even though you do have to spend sorcery points to charge your runes, you are getting value out of your spells with those sorcery points before they become charged runes. At 6th level, you get Sigilic Augmentation. When you make a Strength, Dexterity, or Constitution ability check, you can expend a charged rune as a reaction to gain advantage on the roll. Sigilic Augmentation for dexterity checks includes initiative rolls, so if you have a charged rune when you're going into combat, you can get advantage on your initiative roll, which is so important for a spellcaster so that you can get into position and set out your control spells or whatever you need to do round 1 before the enemies can act. For this reason, I recommend always having at least one charged rune so that when combat begins, you can use Sigilic Augmentation to gain advantage on your initiative roll. But here's the other part. In addition, when you are forced to make a Strength, Dexterity, or Constitution saving throw, you can use your reaction and expend a charged rune to gain advantage on the saving throw. Once you use this feature in this way, you can't use it in this way again until you complete a long rest. So you can freely reuse your charged runes to gain advantage on those physical ability checks, but this one where you gain advantage on the saving throw is based on once per long rest. Constitution saving throws are important for maintaining your concentration, so being able to gain advantage on a really tough one would be important. You might also avoid some hairy situations with Strength and Dexterity saving throws that you can gain advantage on, so this is a great ace up your sleeve. One more ability at level 6 though, Manifest Inscriptions. You can reveal hidden glyphs and enchantments that surround you. As an action, you can expend one charged rune to reveal hidden or invisible arcane traps, marks, runes, wards, sensors, or glyphs within 60 feet of you. They glow with dim light in a 5-foot radius for 1 minute. You have advantage on intelligence, arcana checks to discern the nature of any magic revealed in this way for the duration. If the glyphs you reveal mean something in a language you can't read, you can understand them while they're glowing as if you knew that language. So this is like a much better version of detect magic or find traps when it comes to like arcane glyphs and runes, those sorts of things. But notice it's not just for you, you reveal them. So it's like you put out a pulse of energy and you make them all start glowing so your allies can see them too. You don't have to tell them where they are. And you don't have to just learn the spells School of Magic, you can decipher with an arcana check with advantage to discern what the nature of those magical reveals are. 14th level, you get Runic Torrent. When you cast a spell, you can expend 2 charged runes to cause the spell to deal force damage instead of its usual damage types. Additionally, all creatures targeted by the spell or within the spell's area must succeed on a Strength saving throw against your spell save DC or be knocked prone or pushed up to 15 away from the spell's point of origin, your choice. Once you use this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest. So once per short rest, you can turn Fireball into Force Bomb. If you're fighting fire-resistant creatures or fire-immune creatures, this is huge for you. Force damage is one of the best damage types in the game, so this is a fantastic option for 2 charged runes, and the ability to knock creatures away from the origin or knock them prone as an added effect is fantastic. This would be a great way to knock enemies out of the air if they are flying without the hover feature, because you can knock them all prone. I also noticed that this isn't limited to just damage-dealing spells. If you cast a spell with some other effect, you could potentially knock creatures prone or away from the point of origin. It could be read that you can only use this on spells that deal damage, and that being able to change it into force damage is a qualifier for whether you can use this or not. And that's a fair reading of it, honestly. I just don't know what the intent was. I also kind of like that in addition to whatever saving throw you already have innate to your spell, you're making this secondary Strength saving throw against being knocked prone or knocked away. So some creatures who are probably going to pass a Dexterity saving throw might not also pass the Strength saving throw that's accompanying your spell. So even if they take half damage from Fireball, they still get blown to the side if they fail this Strength saving throw that's being added onto the spell. I kind of wish it wasn't dependent on the Strength saving throw at all, because you can only do it once per short rest and it costs 2 charged runes, but I'm okay with it. Finally, at level 18, you get Arcane Exemplar. You can use a bonus action and expend 1 charged rune to become a being of pure magical energy. While in your Exemplar form, you gain the following benefits. You have a flying speed of 60 feet, awesome. Creatures have disadvantage on saving throws against your sorcerer spells, amazing. You have resistance to damage dealt by spells, wow. Whenever you cast a spell of 1st level or higher, you regain hit points equal to the spell's level. That's pretty good. Your Exemplar form lasts until you end your turn. Oh, what? However, you can expend a charged rune at the end of your turn, no action required, to extend the duration until the end of your next turn. Okay, nice. So you can keep your transformation going for as long as you have charged runes to power it, and you can also keep acquiring charged runes during the duration if you want to keep it going. When your Exemplar form ends, you are stunned until the end of your next turn. Ooh, no, so it's almost like a haste spell where when it ends, you're done. Okay. It's good that it doesn't require action to keep it going with your charged runes, because if you became paralyzed or something, that would prevent you from using an action, and then you would drop your transformation, you'd lose it, that sucks, and then you would also be stunned, and that's horrible. So you gotta be aware of these downsides, right? Because when it's over, it's over. So you don't want to have too few charged runes when you start it, because you gotta keep it going, keep it going. In that way, I'm glad that it only takes one Charged Rune to start the transformation, because it's going to be costly to keep it going. You can use this transformation once per long rest. That's a pretty cool thing. I mean, if enemies all have disadvantage on your saving throws as sorcerer spells, and you're using meta magic to twin them so you could hit 2 people with it at once, yeah, I could see this being a very strong ability. So overall, I've been kind of comparing this to the Clockwork Soul Sorcerer, and in some ways, I think it outshines it. It's definitely more interesting with its resource management, having these charged or inert runes on your body. I also like the flavor and the roleplay aspect of this subclass, as opposed to the Clockwork Soul Sorcerer. I like the Clockwork Soul too, don't get me wrong, I just prefer this one. I'm still debating in my mind whether this is better than the Clockwork Soul Sorcerer, and I think at low levels it is. Maybe its higher level abilities are preferred. The Clockwork Soul also has the ability to like cancel out advantage and stuff like that, which can be very useful. But yeah, I think I prefer this, especially if you're using a campaign where your DM's actually going to use different runic arcane traps that you can get value out of manifest inscriptions. I really dig this subclass. I've heard that it was really bad when it was first published in the first Tal'Dorei book, but in Tal'Dorei Reborn, it's got that modern 5e design to make it a really strong subclass that I would actually be really excited to play. I give the Runechild a 5 out of 5 rating, and I highly recommend anyone to play it. Remember to turn the like button and subscribe button down below into Charged Runes by clicking them, and checking out my article on flutesloot.com with a link in the description for all the Tal'Dorei subclasses, or my video series on all of the subclasses. Check out my wife Opal's videos about lore, role-playing, and magic item crafting that are so good, you'll really love her. Have a good adventure this weekend, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.